What is up everyone? Today I want to show you how I scan my film negatives. I like to use the DSLR scanning process because of how fast the workflow is. There's no right or wrong way. A scanner works fine as well. But to me, workflow is very important. I like to have things done as soon as I can and also have good quality. So if you're interested in learning, stay tuned and we'll go through the whole process from start to end. Before we proceed with the video, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell and the like button. It'll help out the channel a lot. I'll be posting a lot of videos about my film development process from start to end, so you at home can develop your film and scan your film yourself. Without further ado, let's proceed to the video. Here are some required materials for DSLR scanning. A quick note, all of these items will be listed in the description box below, so make sure to check it out. The first thing you'll need is a stand. I like the Kaiser Repro Kids stand. It's a macro stand. I've seen people use tripods as well, and that works fine. The only reason why I don't like using a tripod is because with a tripod, you have to set it up every time you scan your film, and I mostly shoot film anyways, so I'll be scanning almost every other day. So I didn't want to set up every time I had to scan film. With the stand, you can just plug your camera and you'll be ready to go. The second thing you'll need is any stable tripod ball head. I'd recommend getting the Benro 3-way ball head because the 3-way ball head really lets you tune into how the camera is angled towards the film negative, and I liked having that flexibility. Third thing you'll need is a digital camera that has an interchangeable lens system. I personally have a A7R II. And then the next thing you'll need is a macro lens for your camera. So for me, I have the Sony 50mm f2.8 macro lens. It's an A-mount lens, but I have adapted it so it can work with the E-mount on the A7R II. The next thing you'll need is a Lightbox. I got the Art Supply Lightbox. In terms of sizing, A4 I think is sufficient. I have tried the A3, it's a little too big for our purposes. Since we're scanning film negatives, A4 should be sufficient. The next thing you'll need is a film scanning mask. I personally attest to Lomography's DigitaLIZA with the A. Process of adding a film to the film scanning mask with their product is very easy and efficient, so I'd recommend that. I have both the 35mm as well as the 120mm or medium format. Check it out. There are other film scanning masks as well, but I'd recommend the Lomography one. You'll also need a wireless remote or a tethering cable for your camera. This is because you'll probably be working at slower shutter speeds, so you do not want to press the shutter yourself because that might end up with a shaky image. Last thing, I wanted to mention the camera settings that I use when I'm scanning my negatives. I am usually at the ISO range of around 100 to 400 ISO. I would usually recommend a higher apertures so you can get sharpness across the negative. And in terms of shutter speed, the goal of the shutter speed is just to make sure that the negative appears bright and it's not too dark. The shutter speed is less important. The more important thing is the ISO. You want it to be low so you have the least digital noise as possible. Before we get to scanning and editing, I wanted to point out a few important things that you should know. The first important note is that getting the focus right is key to the process, because if it's out of focus, the negative will appear out of focus and you won't get the result that you're looking for. A few ways to tackle this is through focus peaking. I have turned this on my A7R II, and this really helps with focusing because red lines appear when I am in focus, and this is based on the contrast of the negative itself. And I have found that this was super useful in making sure that the film is in focus. The second important thing is you don't want to let extra light come into your DSLR or mirrorless camera. This is because when extra light comes in, it can appear as if one side of the negative where the light is leaking, it appears to be overexposed, whereas the other side appears underexposed. Third important thing is making sure your film is flat. The reason why this is super important is because you're using a macro lens. If the film is not flat and it's bent, one area of the film will be closer to the camera than usually the edges. What this means is that the center will be in focus, but everywhere on the edges will be out of focus, which is not what you want. It will change how the image appears. And this is why the scanning mask is really important. It blocks the light and keeps your film flat. But I've realized with film stocks that are usually from Fuji, you have to make sure they are flat. And you can make sure they are flat by putting the film in archival sheets and putting them under heavy objects like textbooks so they stay flat at least overnight. Now that we got that out of the way, we're gonna start scanning our negatives and editing them. If you are enjoying this video so far, make sure to hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell and that like button. It helps the channel a lot and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you. Now we're gonna put the film in the scanning mask. We're gonna start with 35mm. We'll lay the film down and close the top of the scanning mask. And then we'll flatten it. In terms of cleaning the film, if there are watermarks on your film, you can use a cotton bud as well as some rubbing alcohol that should be high percentage of alcohol. Lightly apply the alcohol on the film mask and then using a lint-free napkin, lightly rub the top of the film to get rid of the watermark. To get rid of dust on your film, I like to use this blower. I forgot what the name was. And remember to face the film down as you're blowing on the film so that the dust gets off the film mask and it doesn't land back on the film. And you should be good. Also, if you cannot get rubbing alcohol, the Zeiss lens cleaning wipe is also a really good solution to clean the watermarks. It should do the trick. Now we are gonna start scanning the negative. We'll zoom in and with focus peaking, we can see the red pops out as we're in focus. And using a remote shutter release, we're gonna take a shot to scan the negative. We'll do the same for the second negative as well. We'll use focus peaking to make sure we are in focus with the negative. And we'll take a shot. And for medium format, we'll do the same thing. We'll get this film and put it on the scanning mask. And close the top and flatten it. And this time I will just get the dust off the film. Remember to face the film down as you're blowing air onto the negative. And we'll do the same thing here. We'll focus with focus peaking and then take a shot. And I like to go back to the playback and zoom into the negative to make sure that I am in focus and everything looks good in the image itself. And I will do the same here. And keep in mind that I am using 400 ISO at a 1/6 of a second. And I will check again. And looks like everything's in focus, so we're good. Now that we have finished scanning, we're going to start editing the images. Before we start editing our negatives, the first thing you'll need is Negative Lab Pro, unless you are editing yourself. So we will go to negativelabpro.com. This is a Lightroom plugin. So once we go to Negative Lab Pro, there's going to be a download free trial. This free trial lets you use Negative Lab Pro on up to 12 negatives. And there's a guide section that will show you how to set up Negative Lab Pro with your Lightroom CC. I'll add this link into the description below with the video instruction as well from Negative Lab Pro. So we'll go in Lightroom and I have the image files here. And we will start with this. The first thing you want to do is we want to match the white balance with the part of the negative that doesn't have the image. So make sure when you're scanning you have a part of the negative that is blank, so you can use that as your white balance. And then when you're cropping, I like to crop into the image when you're first cropping it. So Negative Lab Pro can use the information only from the image to determine how the image should be analyzed. So I will do that, and then to open Negative Lab Pro, you'll press Ctrl-Alt-N. And in terms of setting, we did a digital camera scan, and then we are gonna use Noritsu. I like Noritsu. You can use Frontier, Basic, and for black and white, it'll be black and white. But these are all based on different models of scanners and different color models that they have, I guess, added to their algorithm. So I'll hit Convert Negative. If I press Save, then this will save a new preset. So this is Negative Lab Pro's analysis on what the image should look like. Here I will mess with the brightness and contrast a little bit. I don't do anything crazy with the image here. And in terms of color, I think there's a little bit of too much yellow, so I'll try get that out of the image. But other than that, it looks pretty good, so I think I'm gonna keep it as is. I like to edit my pictures so it comes out like how I remembered the scene when I saw it, but I don't go crazy with it. So we have our first image now, and what I'm gonna do here is, now that we have the full image, I'll crop out. For now, I'm gonna just crop outside of the frame, and when I'm finalizing the image, I will do all the cropping that I wanna do. So that's the first image. It's pretty simple. And the next image, I will rotate it, and the same thing, white balance, and then I will crop into the image. Ctrl-Alt-N. And then once that is done, so we have that. And then I'll show you the preset I was talking about earlier. We already have something that was edited. I can press save here. Then I can go to the image that I want to use that preset on, and I hit load, and it'll load the same preset that I was using on the previous image. However, in this case, I think there are a little bit too much blues, so I'm gonna add back a little bit of yellow to see if I could get a good color that I think matches the image. Yeah, it looks like I need to add the reds back. Let's say, yeah, I say that looks good to me. So first image, and we will again crop back outside of the frame. So when I'm done with this, I can crop it how I want to. This was medium format. Now we're gonna look at 35mm. With 35mm, I have used black and white, so you guys can see the different processes. It's basically the same thing. We want to white balance it, same way. And then we'll crop it like we did. I like to crop inside for this as well. Pretty much the same process. Black and white's easier because you usually don't mess with the color, but make sure to select black and white in the color model, and we will analyze. And then basically I'm just gonna mess with the brightness contrast a little bit. I'm already happy with this, so I'm gonna just hit apply. Then I will crop this back so I have the border as well. Of course you can add the full border in, but for this case I just want to keep it like this. And I'll show you a few of the features of Negative Lab Pro. I already did this, but I can unconvert this, and then I have another image that is black and white, and I'll do the same thing, white balance and crop into the image. And what I want to do here is, let's say I want to batch analyze a bunch of film negatives. Negative Lab Pro can do this. As long as I'm selecting 2 images or more images, there's gonna be convert X amount of negatives. Of course, if you're going to use different color models for different images, then you want to do that separately. But if you're using one color model, you can select pretty much as many photos as you want, press convert, and it'll convert all of it together using the same preset or whatever you have saved as the default edit. So I'll hit convert to negatives, and it's gonna convert both negatives. And once that is complete, it's gonna convert both of it. And it's gonna load the default preset that I saved before. So I can reset that, and then I can press sync settings, and it should sync both the brightness, contrast, and whatever color editing if you have done over to the other images as well. So if I load the preset that I did for the black and white edit that I did earlier, and I can sync settings, and if I go to the next image, it's gonna be edited the same way. So if I just Control-Alt-N, you'll see that the preset that I used on the previous image is here as well. Since that is done, I will crop out of the image. That should be done. That was super easy. Well, that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned something from it. I like to use Negative Lab Pro because it makes my process a lot faster. They do go for $99, and they do have a free trial which lets you convert up to 12 negatives, so you can try it out and make sure you like it before you buy it. But I strongly attest to that product. I will add instructions down below from their website of how to install Negative Lab Pro and set it up in your Lightroom. Unfortunately, Negative Lab Pro does not work with Capture One, but if you're using Lightroom, it's a very good solution to have a fast process of getting your negatives converted and edited. Without further ado, thank you for joining me today. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, as well as the like button. Thank you guys for hanging out with me and watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, as well as the like button, and I will be uploading more film development and tip videos that hopefully will help you out. So if you are interested, stay tuned, and David out.